Great. So my name's Kamil. I'm a urban and regional planning student at the University of Birmingham. I also did an undergrad in geography, and I'm joined by a panel of two other speakers. If you both want to introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Tess and I'm in my final year doing the BA Geography course with Year Abroad.
Hi there, I'm Paddy. I'm second year. I'm studying environmental sciences and then I'm hoping to go on a year abroad next year, obviously COVID permitting.
Cool, so a little bit about me. I studied at the University of Birmingham straight after sixth form, did a 3-year undergrad in geography, and I've continued straight through to a master's in urban planning. Been involved in a fair few different societies and sports teams, things like that. So these are just a highlight. There's loads to get involved with while you're at uni. We're going to try and talk about that and what you can do during your time here too.
Hi, so as I mentioned, I'm on the geography course doing Year Abroad, and I spent my year abroad studying geography in Guadalajara in Mexico, which was pretty cool. And I'm on the Planning Society with Kamil. I've taken part in a couple of other things, the Geography Society, which is called KIMBIG at Birmingham. And yeah, I'll talk you through a couple more of those things later.
Cool. As I said, I'm studying environmental sciences in my second year. Then I'm hopefully going to Kuala Lumpur in about August this year to study abroad. I'm in the second year. I'm a student rep for my cohort, where I sort of relay feedback and things from students and teaching staff in all these different meetings. Outside of my course, I'm heavily involved with hockey at Birmingham, where I compete for the uni, and then for the geography team, as Tess already mentioned.
So I'm just going to talk a little bit about geography as a degree. So, you know, as you can see, what is geography? It's pretty open to interpretation, especially now. So it's mainly, yeah, just looking at who we are as people, looking at society, what we do and how we interact with the environment. So why should you consider geography for an undergrad degree? It's so broad. That's the main thing I can say. I couldn't have expected to have this many module options coming to uni. You know, I've had politics, you know, crosses over with economics. If you prefer things like maths, archaeology, there's really something for everyone. And it's not just this divide between human and physical geography. It's a really broad spectrum. I've had, you can put the geography of before anything. We've had feminist geographies. It's really interesting. So it's a really good way to figure out what you're interested in and explore different areas. There's plenty of opportunities to go and travel and visit places. There's usually lots of field trips. I've attached a couple of photos below of the different places we've been: Japan, Germany, really, really interesting. Something for everyone. And it's usually a pretty big course, so it's very social. And where can it take you for a degree? Again, pretty much anywhere you want. If you want to be an architect, a scientist, teacher, you can go on a lot of different career paths. I will talk a bit more about careers later, but it's got great transferable skills that can set you up for pretty much any career path you choose to go on. And the demand for geographers is growing, especially women in STEM.
So environmental sciences is sort of a bit like geography, but then we sort of specialize in the sort of the scientific area. So we sort of involve areas of geography, ecology, biology, chemistry, physics, geology and maths. And then throughout the entire course, you can specialize to whatever sort of interest and whatever takes your fancy. I realize I'm not actually in any of the pictures on the slide, but we're quite a small cohort and we all get along really well. So I was lucky enough to have these shared with me. We're also really lucky to make use of loads of facilities at Birmingham, such as our computer laboratories and our wet laboratories. Then we can go on these really cool field trips. Like I've got one here from my first year when we went to the Peak District, and there's also opportunities to visit BIFOR, which is a uni project up in Staffordshire where we studied the effect of elevated CO2 on woodlands. It's one of only 3 sites in the world that's pretty interesting. The others are in Australia and Brazil. And our students at Birmingham, we also have the potential to sort of incorporate a year abroad, as myself and Tess have mentioned, where you can study overseas as part of your degree. We can also do a placement year, such as some of my friends who are hoping to go to New Zealand this September. Environmental science students, the demand for them varies immensely depending on whatever pathway they choose during their studies. Careers can include stuff during like research, engineering, consultancy, urban development projects, and there's just many, many more.
Cool. So urban planning, like I mentioned before, I've done an undergrad in geography, more particularly human geography. And I've chosen to specialise now into a master's, so a 1-year course, just to sort of give me an extra boost in terms of knowledge in the area and to be able to sort of go into a grad job with a full sort of capability and specialism in planning. The planning is all about working with areas or specific sites. One example here is the New York High Line in the top right. So that's a sort of a key example, like what you might have heard of. It was an unused sort of left behind site. Through planning, what happened is they involved the local government, the local community, developers, and really created something new. And planning is all about that and bringing about, you know, different sort of perspectives. So considering sort of the specialist consultants like ecologists, engineers, they all get brought into the planning process. And so as an urban planner, you have to sort of negotiate that and make sure that all these different interests are considered, and whatever comes out in the urban development process is a really positive outcome for everyone. And so essentially it's about decision making and making sure that what we create in cities and in urban areas works for society. And I saw it as a way to sort of go from all the things that I learned in geography about both the environment and society, and actually then apply that in practice through, you know, development and actually what we build around us beyond just the sort of theories that I picked up in my undergrad. So there's a real variety of careers you can go into, both in the public sector, so sort of setting out policies for how actual cities are built, or as a consultant, so actually deciding, you know, here's a scheme proposals and things like that. So as an urban planner at university, though, the step before you actually go into the working world, you get involved in a lot of different policy aspects, and understanding how different factors contribute to how we shape our cities. It's a really dynamic degree path, and you can also do it undergrad too before you sort of, if you don't want to do the masters. But yeah, it's really diverse, and it's really a practical way of sort of implementing all the ideas that you learn through geography into the built environment and what gets put in place in cities. So we're just going to go over our favourite moments at uni. We'll start with Paddy, just sort of talk about what we've done at environmental science.
Cool. So as I've already mentioned, environmental science allows you to get involved with loads of different areas and projects during your degree. The 3 photos I've put on here, I realised again that all of my housemate and not with me, but sort of involve our field trip to the Peak District was a lot of fun. It was a really good week. As we're a really tiny cohort of only about 40 students, you really get to know all the staff and students really quickly. And I was all within the first month or 2 of the entire course. So you get to make a lot of friends really soon. Then the other 2 are the sort of 2 projects we did in first year. One of them where we studied pollen in this enormous microscope laboratory here at Birmingham. And then the other was making these little instructional videos on sort of field equipment, which was a lot of fun.
Cool. Tess, do you want to talk about yours?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my favourite moments haven't been in Birmingham exactly. They were a lot of the time in Mexico when I was doing my year abroad. And I think if you can have the opportunity to go on a year abroad, I'd highly recommend it. And I've just seen I've got a question saying, can you opt in to do a year abroad if you've applied for just straight geography or whatever? That is completely possible. You can choose to do it any time. I think you just need a 2-1 in first year. But incredible opportunity, and going somewhere where they speak a different language isn't for everyone, but it's a great opportunity to get a feel for different cultures, and also it was really good for giving me a global perspective on some of the issues that I've been studying in my degree in geography, and seeing how these issues are tackled with different countries and different governments. And then also just a general favourite moment has been University of Birmingham's redone a lot of their campus, and we've got a space called the Green Heart. And it's just really lovely in the summertime. We've got loads of green spaces, going and sitting with your friends in the summer, maybe having a break during the doing your studying at the library and sitting outside in the sun, just being able to meet lots of people, especially on the Vale in first year. It's a lovely area. So I've had lots of good times there.
Probably worth mentioning that you can go on a year abroad to places that speak English as well, so you haven't got to deal with that barrier. So there's places like Canada and Australia really popular. Tess, how do you sort of deal with that, like, language barrier in Mexico?
I mean, luckily I had a basic amount of Spanish, so I could get by, but you don't have to worry. I mean, if you're going somewhere that's linked with the University of Birmingham, you will be able to, study in English, and there'll be loads of international students who are all in the same boat. It does feel a little bit scary. I thought, why am I getting on a plane to the other side of the world? But I wouldn't stop it for anything. And I'm really glad that I got to go somewhere that was a little bit different to most people. But again, as Kamil mentioned, places like Australia, Canada, America, all have some incredible places, and the universities as well have really broad modules that you might not necessarily do in your degree at Birmingham.
That's like a true geographer getting around the world.
Yeah.
So similarly, I've gone on a fair few field trips during my geography undergrad. So I went to Berlin, the picture at the top. Berlin, we studied sort of social issues and how the cities really come together under 2 different governments, so the East and the West Berlin divide. And that really provided key sort of case study for geography. And actually we did our own little research projects looking at, you know, what little aspects can we sort of study and what can we gain from how the city has developed, how can we understand it better. And on the right is Rotterdam as a field trip right in our first year. Sort of just got thrown into the city and looked at both environmental issues. So, you know, the Netherlands being almost half underwater or below sea level, and also other things like social issues. So the Netherlands also being quite forward thinking on how they developed their cities. And that was actually when my interest in planning started in first year geography, was sort of seeing how, you know, these social issues can be maneuvered around by good urban design and actually deciding how we build our cities and making sure it's the highest standard possible. So yeah, I think the best moments in geography have been on field trips. But through urban planning, you actually get quite a lot of practical experience working with developers and actually on live projects that are going on. So that's been really interesting too in my master's course. There's a lot to the urban planning course too. So Tess, if you want to start about career opportunities and where you think you're headed.
Yeah, so I mean, as I mentioned, all of the degrees that we've talked about and this sort of general area, you know, there's opportunities to become more specialist. So particularly with the geography degree, I started out with a certain interest in sort of environmental side, and I've ended up coming out of it figuring out that I really like the urban planning side, so I can go down that route. There's plenty of grad schemes out there, which geography is a really great one for, because you are doing, you know, you get your practical skills when you're doing field work, you've got presenting skills, excuse me, you've got a lot of teamwork, there's often a lot of group projects, you know, you're doing report writing, you're doing research, so you do generate all these skills that are really, really useful in any job that you go into. So I think it looks, not just about looking good on your CV, but it definitely helps to be able to say that you've explored lots of different interests and you've got quite a plethora of expertise that you've got through your degree. And yeah, I'll pass on to Paddy.
Sure. So the ranges of pathways you can take with environmental sciences, well, it's huge. Depending on what you sort of really like and specialize in. At Birmingham, we get a lot of help through tutor meetings, which we have every week, every other week, where you're sort of guided to look at places for internships or ways to enhance your skill set to maybe just broaden your prospects after university. Personally, I'm hugely interested in sort of data and programming and that kind of side. And my tutor is, well, the same as me really. So she really encourages me to sort of enhance those skills, and she's put me in contact with loads of different people where I can really work on stuff during summer and internships outside university, so that I'm really enjoying my time here. Then afterwards, hopefully I have a good sort of career lined up in that side.
So I think it's important to note, like, there's career support throughout your whole time at uni. So it's not just sort of you do uni and then you have to choose a career right at the end. You sort of really get to develop your interests throughout, and you know, there's no pressure if you come to uni without an idea exactly where you want to go into, especially if you do quite a broad topic like geography. There's really a lot of, you know, scope to move around and choose different topics, especially at UOB actually, where you get to choose both modules in human geography and physical geography, and you can really mix that as well. I know that helped me with sort of figuring out exactly what I was interested in before having to sort of make a choice. And we'll come back to that later on as well when it comes to choosing universities. There's not really a set sort of path that you have to follow when you get to uni, and you can really switch up. And I think a big thing that gets promoted while you're here is the fact that you're picking up transferable skills that can really be applied to anywhere. And so going to uni isn't just about choosing a specific path, but also about saying, you know, I've got experience working at a higher level, and you can take that to any company really and sort of quote the fact that you've worked extra hard to get a degree. So you really aren't sort of set down one route, even if you choose a specific degree, especially with geography, because you can change. So in the top picture there, we've got careers fairs. So what a typical careers fair would look like. You'd have loads of employees coming onto campus with a real range. There'd be different careers fairs for things like the environment, engineering type subjects, so you can get a real range and you can attend any of them. And that's where you get a feel for sort of what employers are doing. But the university puts a lot of effort into bringing employers onto campus, and that's where you can really meet them and get a feel for what their job is like and hear from them. So throughout this year with the pandemic, there's been a lot of talks. So you can see at the bottom a screenshot from like a webinar that we had with a planning consultancy that came in and just talked about sort of, you know, their experiences in the industry and what it's like. To get a really a feel for what jobs are out there while you're at uni, especially if you're not decided now what you want to go into. Uni is a good time to sort of figure things out for yourself. So it's worth considering that when you come to choose sort of what sort of degree you want to go into, is you know, what are the paths that are available through that, but just remember that it's not always closed off either. And so throughout uni, you've got opportunities to get involved with internships and work experience. So on the right there is me at David Locke Associates doing some urban design. And so this is in my second year summer of doing geography. The university actually gave me a bursary to cover my train ticket costs to get down to Milton Keynes, and supported me through that work experience there. And so that really opened me up to sort of, you know, the world of urban planning and urban design. So you can see I'm using a lot of colours and stuff there to just draw on maps and figure out new layouts for a city. And so, you know, work experience throughout your time at uni really sort of lets you understand what going into different sectors is like. And so again, you can sort of figure that out for yourself as you go along by picking up different opportunities throughout your first, second and third year summers. And then obviously you get grad jobs. The whole point of going to uni, I guess, is to eventually get into a graduate job. The uni puts on loads of support for that as well. So there's loads of advisors, workshops, things like CV workshops, interview guidance, so getting prepared for the entire process of going into a grad scheme. That's quite a way off for you guys anyway, so you don't have to really worry about it yet. But there is loads of support once you get to uni about, you know, whether you're set on a certain career path or whether you're really open and not quite sure. There's loads of support that gets provided. So yeah, it's really open once you get to uni.
I just wanted to really briefly add to that. It might be worth mentioning, just as Kamil was talking about work experience, I'm in my final year and I'm taking a placement module, which is a really great opportunity for you. It's a 12-week placement, and the university will provide a lot of different placement opportunities that you can choose from, or you can source your own. And I was really excited by this because I kind of wanted to graduate with a little bit of work experience. It's the same amount of work as a module. It's weighted the same. It's just something that gives you a little bit of experience, and you know, you can get a feel for what you want to do. And it's really helpful when you're applying for grad jobs to think, I've had experience doing this, and also just for networking as well, sort of generally getting your sort of professional career, getting the ball rolling there a bit. So that's a really good, I'd really recommend doing that if you get the opportunity to.
So about university life, there's a lot of pictures here and there's a lot to university life beyond just going to your lectures. So Paddy, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So as Kamil said, there's a lot to university life. It's really enjoyable. I personally love sort of the independence of it all and your ability to literally do whatever you want whilst you're here with no sort of restrictions. It's a lot of fun whilst you're studying to be able to sort of get out of your lab work, which is also enjoyable with your course mates, but get out and meet a whole range of people from outside your course maybe, or just some of them aren't actually students that just sort of get involved with uni activities as well. I've got a photo here at the bottom of, well, just before I stacked it in front of an enormous home crowd. Again, it's a lot of fun getting involved in the whole year. But then with that, as well as the sort of competitive side of sports here at uni, there's the campus league team that we've already spoken about called Kinvig, where you meet people on your course and then you get to compete against all the other schools in the university. So you compete against sort of biosciences and psychology and engineering, all really competitive stuff, but a lot of fun at the same time. Then there's loads of activities around Birmingham as well. So I've put down some on here about the Van Gogh exhibition that went on, and then sort of the climbing that you can do down in Digbeth. Again, it's all free, easily accessible from town. Just hop on the train into the city. It's a lot of fun with all your mates.
I think it's worth mentioning, like, there is a lot of different sports and societies to get involved in. So societies are basically student-run groups for different interests. So you can get things like the knitting society, you can get skiing society, so people who go on trips together to go skiing. And then you get the formal organised sports like hockey, football, American football, frisbee, which I was part of for a bit before the lockdown. There's just lots of different things to get involved in, just to have a laugh with your mates, or get into competitive sport as well, playing for the university and representing the uni too. So if you are into your sports, there is a lot of opportunities there, and it doesn't really matter what level you are. There's teams for everyone as well, so you can really try new things. Other than frisbee, there's things like dodgeball, cheerleading. There's a lot to get involved in at uni, and because you're surrounded by so many like-minded people, you can really find something that fits you. So if it's not a sport, then like I said, societies, there's the Bad Film Society, the Tea Drinking Society, the Cocktail Society, so they get together and make their own drinks. I know this year they've been doing it over Zoom, so they sort of give you like an ingredient list, you go out and buy it, and then you will make the cocktails and drink them together over Zoom. And obviously that'll be back to in person next year too. There's a lot of sort of societies and organised things going on too, but you know, as a student as well, you sort of find that balance between going to lectures and then beyond that, you're living independently away from your family, which is nice, but also completely surrounded by friends. So living on campus in student accommodation is amazing. It's like constantly being on holiday in like a group of like everyone who's 18 to 19 in your first year, and then, you know, constantly being around other people in the same position as you. Everyone just sort of wants to have a good time. There's lots to do, and obviously living in Birmingham, there's a lot of nightlife opportunities. It's also worth mentioning the campus, because that's where you're spending your daytime beyond your free time. So things like lectures, it's less intense than sixth form, so you probably have, depending on what subject you do, I think geography 13 hours a week, and so you'd have, you know, a few 2-hour lectures, maybe 1 or 2 a day, and beyond that it's all about self-study. And so you've got a picture in the middle there, the library. The UOB library is actually really nice. It's a really good place to work and study. So it's all about doing your independent research, and this is where sort of the difference between A levels and university comes in, because you sort of have to start doing things on your own and finding information independently. So yeah, anything to add to that, Tess?
I mean, yeah, I was just going to say, I'm not a sporty person. Me and sport don't get on. So I really appreciated the fact that I could join all these societies as well and meet people that have the same interests as me. And especially in freshers, I think Birmingham are really good at providing a lot of opportunities for freshers to meet. And it's not all just drinking and going out ones. There's plenty of that as well. But especially on geography, Kinvig is the main society, and there's loads of opportunities to get to know other people, which is really helpful because, as Kamil said, you're all in the same boat. It's hard to meet people sometimes, and it can be scary thinking about if we're going to be doing that in a lockdown. Hopefully not, touch wood. But yeah, please don't be worried about that. Everyone's in the same boat. You'll get to meet some of the best people, friends for life, and yeah, you've got your course mates, housemates. Having a house is so much fun. I love it. Having some independence, so I'm sure you guys locked up at home are excited to get out and get to uni, and you'll really, really enjoy it. So yeah, Birmingham's got plenty of opportunities for you to explore what you're interested in and meet people.
I think as we move on to the next slide as well, it's worth considering what sort of campus you go into. I think I'll actually move on to the next slide first. We'll talk about that, but whether you go to a campus uni or like one that's strung about in a city, it sort of changes your university life. So in Birmingham, you've got the student accommodation in first year and sort of the second and third year housing, all right next to the university campus. So it means everything's sort of within walking distance, which has been really nice. And that's worth considering actually, what's the accommodation like, where you're going to go to, not just in your first year, but also where do you live in your second and third year. There's always plenty of houses. That's what typically happens. You move out of student accommodation, and in your second and third year, you'd go into like a house with your friends. In Birmingham and Selly Oak, there's houses between sort of 5 and 7 bedrooms typically, and they're about the same price as first year accommodation. And it's great. I mean, it's like having a house for your best mates. So it's really good fun having that. And that picture in the top left was my neighbours. I became really good friends with because they had a sofa out on their front garden. And we sort of met through that, and yeah, you make really good friends just in the neighbourhood that you live in as well. So in terms of choosing a university, I think, well, I'll mention the campus quickly. So like I said, you can see the picture there on the left. That's the University of Birmingham campus. The library, the little golden building in the bottom right, got a big green heart, which is quite rare for unis, I think, to have that much greenery. It's almost like an American style campus. Massive clock tower in the middle, you will have seen if you've ever been past Birmingham. We've got sports pitches just beyond that in the blue and green, just behind those red buildings. And then behind that is actually Selly Oak, where all the students live. And so you've got a real community and everyone's sort of close together, and that's worth considering. If you get a campus uni, you will have that sort of walkable environment where everyone's close together and you live next to your friends and next to your campus as well. It's all within walking distance, and saves you getting on public transport. But beyond that, looking at actually how you assess a university, I think once you know what subject you want to do, it's worth looking into the modules that each university provides, because that will vary between unis. So maybe there's something that you're more interested in, and also the course structure. So for example, with the University of Birmingham, you could choose your optional modules in second and third year, and they could still be a mix of physical and human geography. You didn't have to sort of go down one set route. And I still picked up sort of like ecology modules, looking at wildlife in urban spaces in my third year, and so I carried on that interest. So it's worth considering what your optional modules are, and you can find that on every university's website for that course. Also worth considering how you're assessed in those modules, so that they should mention that too. So the University of Birmingham, 50% of your assignments were actually before your final year exam, so you spent a lot of time doing essays and coursework. which meant that you sort of didn't have as much pressure when you got to the end of the year. Obviously, different courses like environmental science might have a more practical aspect as well, so even more coursework, and it takes that pressure off of exams. Or, you know, if you perform better in exams, it's worth considering that. But different modules are assessed differently as well, so you can pick and choose sort of whatever plays to your strengths. And so also Russell Group universities, that can be quite a confusing term as to what it means. They're seen as more prestigious. The reason for that is because they're research led. And so basically the academics and the lecturers that are teaching you, they're also doing their own research and publishing into scientific journals and basically finding out new things. And so if you go to Russell Group University, like the University of Birmingham, you'll be being taught by people who are actually researching, you know, these new topics, and they're giving you that information straight from what they've just found out. And it can make for a really exciting course. And like Tess said, in geography, we had a real range of modules that, you know, encompassed exactly what was going on. So for example, carceral geography, so looking at geography of prisons, how prisons work and reassessing that, and being at the forefront of that sort of change is really interesting to be part of. So you can really feed into that process as well through the work that you do, for example, for your dissertation. So your own research essentially can contribute back to the universities. But yeah, onto the test.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really important to look at the course and how it's going to be assessed. And you've also got to think about, you know, yourself. Kind of, you know, I mean, when I was walking around Birmingham, it sounds really cliche, but it was raining and suddenly there was a rainbow and I was like, wow, it's so beautiful. I love it. It's for me. That's not going to happen to every single person, but I would just say if you can get the opportunity to visit, I know it's really hard at the moment, but make the most of the virtual open days, speak to people who have been to the university. You're welcome to contact me and any of us. And yeah, if you can just have a sort of get a feel of how it feels in that area, you know, look into what the city's like, look into the accommodation. And it's really important that you think about you and that you're not thinking, is this where I'm expected to study? This looks like a really good university. This looks like a bad university. Try not to put universities into boxes. Just think, is this a place that I can see myself going? Do I think I'll be happy here? And hopefully the answer is yes. And just do as much research as possible into all the different factors. And I think Paddy's going to talk a bit about extracurricular opportunities, because I know that makes a big difference sometimes.
Yes. So for extracurricular, I was fortunate enough that my cousin's also here in her 4th year doing medicine, so I knew a lot about the uni before I even came. So I was aware that sort of how great they were and sort of their sporting prowess, but also the range of other societies to get involved with. One of the big reasons I chose Birmingham personally was just for the hockey. They're sort of one of the best unis in the country for that. And as sort of Kamil's already mentioned, you can still see the sports pitches just there in the back. As well as extracurricular, then it's also a big thing about the facilities on offer. Birmingham's really great that they've recently developed a lot of their campus. So the library that Kamil's mentioned has only been open, going from around 2-3 years now. And then they recently opened about a month ago, a brand new engineering building, which is enormous and looks really quite fancy. Then there's also something called the Collaborative Teaching Laboratory, which is where I do a lot of my work in labs and computer sessions and look under the microscope, which was opened maybe beginning of my first year it was open. So that's still all really new, all really nice to use, and it is really one of the best sites in the country for research like that.
Cool. All right, I think that's everything from us. So we're going to move on to the questions and answers now. I'll try and get the chat up. Can everyone still see the PowerPoint? All right. Yeah. All right. So
you work through from the top.
Yeah, so Phoebe asks, I've got an offer for BSc Geography, but is it possible to have a complete mixture of the human and physical side? Yeah, so whether you, at the university, so it depends on the university actually. Some unis, if you choose a BA course, that means that you're going to go into human geography, and some BSc would be physical. At the University of Birmingham, the BA and BSc course are the same. So BSc stands for Bachelor of Science, BA is Bachelor of Arts. It just sort of means which way you're inclined, like what you sort of prefer in terms of topic choices. But at the University of Birmingham, it doesn't actually matter what you do, and you can actually even change the degree title if you wanted to. But you can still choose the exact same modules at UAB. I don't know if Tess, you want to add anything to that in terms of flexibility?
Yeah, I mean, Birmingham is really, really flexible. I didn't know about urban planning. I didn't realise that that was possible. And so I emailed last year and said, for my final year modules, can I take some of the urban planning ones that for the planning students? And they were like, yeah, completely fine. And yeah, I believe that the first year course for BA and BSc is exactly the same. And then I think it's only in second year that there's maybe a required module. But I've got friends who've done the BSc who have done pretty much all BA modules. But again, yeah, just try not to think of it as this is physical, because it's so much intertwined. So it's very broad, and there are things that, yeah, it's very much open to interpretation. So you can definitely mix it up as you go along. There's no commitment to one.
So yeah, it's worth saying that everyone in first year, whether you're BA or BSc, you'll be in the exact same lectures. Sometimes we're in lectures with geologists or environmental scientists, if they're like a physical lecture. Sometimes we're in lectures with urban planners. And then in second and third year, you only have sort of core modules that give you like the key skills, like mapping and stuff like that. And then you can choose your optional modules in whatever sort of area you want to go into. But beyond UOB, it is worth considering, you know, whether the uni you want to apply to lets you have that flexibility. So like I said, I looked at, I think, University of Manchester, and they had a specific degree for physical geography and then another one for human geography. It's worth considering that. And that might have changed at University of Manchester now. I think it might be Leeds actually, but still have a look at the course description, see if that flexibility is there. So another question from Lucy, does environmental science have more geography or science involved?
Sure. During first year, so the main difference would be that we do a module of chemistry and a module of biology. Other than that, it can be completely weighted whichever way you feel. So during my second year, I could have chosen entirely geography modules if I liked, and I would have had ultimately a very similar degree to a geography student, or I could have taken more sort of sciencey and chemistry ones than the ones I have done. So completely weighted whichever way you like. I'd say it's about 50-50 if most of the time, just depending on however we weight it. And there was this one just before that as well from Charlotte about taking geography A level. I vaguely remember my tutor saying something about 30% of our cohort not taking geography for an A level before you come. It's not crucial in any way at all. For example, we do chemistry. I didn't take chemistry for my A levels. A lot of other people didn't do that, but the course is really great for accommodating for students that haven't had that prior teaching.
Cool, nice one. There's a question from Pippa about accommodation in first year. I think we just remember that like there's people here that aren't all interested in UOB, so we'll sort of mention, I guess, general points, but about accommodation as well. But I don't mind starting. So I went into tennis courts at UOB in first year, one of the cheaper ones, but actually been recently redone, so it's actually quite new and nice. I think with university accommodation, you pay basically to have, you can pay more to have your own toilets, and it's also about the number of people you live in, and also the location, worth considering. So being on the Vale at UOB is really nice because you've got a big green space right next to you. But I really like tennis courts. I thought it was great, and it's a really sociable one because you sort of get to meet everyone in your little block. So yeah, I'd recommend tennis courts. I don't know about you, Paddy and Tess.
I was in Mason, which is it was self-catered and en suite, and that's what I want to do. Yeah, another thing to think about is whether you want a catered option or not. I did enjoy having self-catered because I just had more flexibility in what I could eat and when. If you've got dietary requirements, maybe it's easier, but at the same time, a lot of my friends who are on meal plan, especially those in Shackleton, they found it really sociable because you all go down and eat together. So if you're sort of feeling like you're not making any friends, it's really easy to, it's quite a social event almost. So that's something to think about, whether you want to be have the flexibility or not.
Then during first year, I actually wasn't on the Vale. I wish I was, but I wasn't. I still got to meet loads of friends from my block in one of the partner accommodations closer to town. It was also a lot cheaper. It was self-catered, got to share, it was sharing facilities, but other than that, still had a great time. And the commute in was always quite fun. You had to walk with a load of people for, like, felt like hours a day, but it was only about half an hour really.
I think it's worth mentioning about self-catering. So obviously at uni, you sort of get that independence, you have to start cooking for yourself. At UOB, there's a massive Aldi right next to the campus, which makes shopping really cheap and easy. And so I guess, it's a time where you sort of learn to cook for yourself, and whether you get, even if you get self-catered in first year, or if you don't, you'll still have to learn to cook by second or third year when you have to start shopping for yourself anyway. But it's if you're not too confident right now, you'll get there eventually. And I think it's a learning process for everyone. I think definitely my own cooking abilities improved drastically since coming to uni. And so yeah, if you're considering self-catered, you've got plenty of options for shops and stuff like that. And it's just a case of going down to Aldi for your weekly shop once a week. And I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that on looking after yourself.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say there's just a question about the meal plan and sort of the flexibility with it. I mean, this is just speaking for Birmingham. I wasn't on it, so this might be slightly inaccurate, but I think what they did is it was sort of an allowance that you had on your card. So you were paying something like £45 a week, that could be wrong, and then the uni gave an additional £5. And you could choose to use that on whatever you wanted. There were loads of outlets, like food outlets within the building, so it wasn't just the main sort of dining area. There was like a pizza shop and hot dog place, and so you can choose to spend it on campus as well, which was really good. So you didn't have to bring in a lunch, which was quite handy, and maybe that's something that I would have done and got catered, because people could spend their allowance on getting lunch on campus, so salads, jacket potatoes, burritos and that sort of thing. So it's completely flexible, and I think if you don't use up all your allowance, it goes to next week. That's something you'll have to check, but you can completely just spend it all in one day on pizzas, or you can use it throughout the week. So yeah, and there's breakfast as well, I think you can do on certain days. So yeah, do look into it, but it's not you have to eat this many meals and whatever. It is pretty flexible as well.
On that, it's worth mentioning the money can be spent at such a wide range of places on campus already. Like there's the sports bar which caters for it, then there's sort of like Wok Fresh, really popular, and a burrito place on campus which is really popular. There's loads of places to spend your money, and as Tess said, it rolls on, I believe, week on week, so you can add up and then you can treat all your friends to lunch at the end of the term if you like.
Right, I'm thinking as well, if you're on meal plan, you can use it at the spa on campus as well, so you can spend on actual like food shops too. Yeah. So there's also that, if you want to sort of get your own toast or whatever, rather than to go down to the canteen, you can also buy food from the spa shop on campus with your own meal plan cards. That's worth considering too for University of Birmingham. So for the year abroad, oh no, sorry, I missed one there. From Beyonce, do you have to do geography A levels to get into university? I think that's from what Paddy said already, that's pretty much a straight no. So yeah, you can really get onto courses as long as you get the grade requirements. You might have to demonstrate sort of your willingness and, you know, the fact that you're committed to the subject in your personal statement, but I don't think you need to have geography as a requirement. It's worth probably, you know, calling up to individual universities and asking how they see that, whether they'd expect you to do anything else and sort of achieve any certain grades to go beyond that. So I think it might depend on certain unis' requirements though. But I mean, in terms of actually getting on with the course, once you get here, doing the first year of geography was almost like redoing A levels. It wasn't actually that difficult at all, so you don't actually miss anything. It was almost like redoing A levels, but covering a broader range of topics. And so it didn't really feel too difficult. You were just doing more geography. And then you build up into your second and third year of doing something more difficult. But first year is all about that sort of level playing field and making sure everyone has the same knowledge, because different schools do different A levels. And so yeah, it really wasn't too intense either. If you haven't got geography as an undergrad and you want to go into that, then you can really sort of, it really eases you into it, I think. And if you two want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, I think you pretty much said that. I know people who didn't do geography, but they've done, you know, maybe a sort of planning type thing, or a science or a social science, which are usually pretty much accepted. So yeah, should be fine.
Yeah. So this is one for you, Tess. So Amy asks, for the year abroad, you save up money by having a job. Was it an expensive year or was it okay?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of year abroad questions, so I'll sort of try and address them all in one if that's okay. So I've already said about can you opt into a year abroad? Yeah, you can do that at any point. I think it's just needed to on in first year, and that's whether you've already applied for it or not. And then, is it expensive? So the university does fund it. It's part of your fees. Sorry, the university doesn't fund it. You're still paying as a year, but it's massively discounted. I think it's only about £1,000 something. So I got that through my student loan, and you'll still get the maintenance loan if you're applying for that. And in terms of if it's expensive, it kind of depends on where you're going. For geography at Birmingham specifically, it's only a study year. You can't work, unfortunately, but that's why the placement module is good. I mean, I was in Mexico, so it was pretty cheap, but student finance will usually factor in where you're going. And if you're going somewhere that the living price is a little bit more expensive, you'll be covered for that. So that's nothing to worry about. And you're not there for the whole year as well. I mean, you are, but as you've got, well, you can come home. What I'm trying to say is you can factor in the money and spend it in the less months that you have. Is there a limited number of places? It is a limited number of places for certain universities, and this is something that I struggled with, because places like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America are very highly competitive, and the way that Birmingham does it is it's based on your grades. So it is done in that priority. So if you've got a first, you are more likely to get a place in your top 5 choices. I personally didn't get any of my top 5 choices, had a complete meltdown about it, thought it was the end of the world, didn't even get my 6th to 10th choices. And I'm actually really grateful that I didn't, because I ended up going to Mexico, which is somewhere I never would have picked. I never would have thought, had the best time. And I actually enjoyed being the only person from a university. So, I mean, first year doesn't count, but, you know, you still want to work hard, use that as your motivation to try and get on a good place. And what did I do in my year abroad? Again, I was studying, but you can choose from so many different universities. And with geography, it's really flexible because so many modules can be considered geography in some form. So I just had to let Birmingham know what modules were available in Mexico, and they just said, yeah, that's absolutely fine, we're happy for you to do those. I mean, I did ones about Mexican culture, I had ones about architecture, engineering, politics, so it was really, really broad. And I mean, you are studying, but there's, depending on where you're going, there's usually loads of free time and plenty of opportunities to travel, because the terms will be slightly different from Birmingham's terms, so you do kind of have a bit of time off. And I think that's most of the year abroad questions, but you're very welcome to message me personally or send any more questions if you have any more about year abroads. I think I've covered most.
Anything about University of Malaysia, University of Nottingham, Malaysia?
It's one of the partners, like Tess said. Malaysia's, I'm looking forward to it mostly because from people I've heard before, Malaysia's a really great place to travel from elsewhere. So I had a friend of mine who was there last year, and it'll be a sort of a Friday night. They'd be sat around and be a bit bored, and they just book a flight to a random island and spend the weekend there. So I'm really looking forward to that. And again, Malaysia is one of the cheaper options. I've got friends who are going to Australia, and they'll get a greater maintenance loan simply because accommodation and living out there is just so much more than places like Mexico and Malaysia. But I haven't been yet, so I can't say too much about it.
Cool. I think there's another one for you, Paddy. Well, I'm not sure. I studied geology at GCSE, but I'm not doing biology, chemistry, and geography for A level. Do you think it's worth specialising in geology straight away, or is it worth picking environmental science and specialising later?
So I'd say if you're looking to study geology in the long term, like that's what you want your degree to be, then it's absolutely fine to start doing a geology degree. The first year for geology, geography, environmental science is very similar. We take a few modules which are specific to your degree, but generally about maybe 4 of the 6 are absolutely exactly the same. So I'd say you can do either, which either you like really, because we have the option in 2nd and 3rd year to do geology modules, whereas geologists only do geology modules. So either would work, but if you're looking to do geology in the long run, I'd say do geology straight away.
I just see that there's a question about accommodation on year abroad. Where did you live? Was it owned by the uni? I personally lived. Oh, I think Kamil's.
Sorry.
Are you back? I was just very quickly answering a question about university accommodation on a year abroad. It's completely dependent on where you go. I lived in separate accommodation with a lot of other students, but there was equally accommodation that I could have gone in. It just it was slightly stricter. It had a curfew and all this stuff, but some places the student accommodation will probably be great because loads of students are living there. It just depends how far away maybe accommodation is, if you're in a city or not. But there's plenty of options, so yeah. So
there's a question from Phoebe that asks, is it easy to get involved with hockey and sports, even if you're not amazing at them? Paddy, do you want to start on that?
Yeah, sure. So hockey particularly is one of I think it is the biggest club at Birmingham, and it is competitive to get into. Having said that, there are 6 men's, 6 women's teams and a mixed team within the club. And then, so they run trials every year. Say you weren't fortunate enough to make any of those teams, then there's still the campus league and the chance to retrial in Christmas and then 2nd and 3rd year. The campus league teams are a lot of fun as well. There's no trials whatsoever. A lot of it's social, and they sort of just train once a week, play once a week against other schools. It's a really great way to meet other people in your course and within your school.
Cool. I mean, I'd second that as well. I think the fact that there's so many different teams you can really join at any level. There's teams, different beginners, and there's teams right all the way up to like sort of experts and people almost playing in national level leagues. So you can really go in at whatever level suits you. I had that experience in first year trying out for geography, for dodgeball. And I was playing against people who actually play for England in the dodgeball team, and then also people who were just doing it for a laugh. It's a great way to meet people. So you can see sports both as a social thing and quite competitive as well. And there's also, for example, in football, if you don't want to join the main football team, there's things like a five-a-side on campus that go on. There's loads of netball teams and hockey teams that are related to subjects. So geography has got its own netball, hockey, and football. And so you can really get involved in the more casual sort of campus leagues that aren't the major uni ones. So Tess, you said you weren't involved in sports, were you?
I mean, I haven't gone through and actually joined any teams, but what I did find really useful is that there's usually loads of taster sessions which are either free or discounted, because some sports the membership fee will be a little bit higher than others, so it's great to be able to try it out and see if it's for you. I went to a lacrosse session. I think it cost £5 and it was fun. It wasn't for me, I didn't carry on, but it's really good to be able to do that, try something out, even if you just go once for the experience. I think I did a pole session, which again wasn't for me, but yeah, it's a really good opportunity to meet people and just try out different things without having to commit to it fully. So I definitely recommend doing that.
Cool. So Sophie asked, what jobs do you go into, and mentioned my offer. So I've actually just recently received an offer to join the Atkins planning team. So I'll be joining as a graduate planner, working on infrastructure projects. So looking at things like HS2, how they sort of deliver road infrastructure, how they build bridges, working abroad in different countries, so building road networks in in the third world, to supporting other areas. So there's a real range of things you go to planning with. So consultancy is quite a big thing there. You can work in sort of building offices, developments, neighbourhoods, communities of housing areas, or wider infrastructure stuff. Tess and Paddy, have you got any other sort of career paths that you're aware of through your degrees?
I mean, I'm applying for lots of graduate jobs, but at the same time, I'm also looking at ones that are slightly more diverse and just sort of general jobs or internships and placements, which are really great. You don't have to think, I need to come out of this and have a job lined up. It's totally fine to take a year off, go traveling, do like a short-term thing. So there's plenty of options to do. So don't feel like you have to follow one career path. That would be my advice.
Exactly the same here. The projects you can get involved with really help to sort of really streamline where you want to take your interests. But you get a lot of help through internships. And I've got a lot of course mates looking at internships now in Birmingham and sort of back where they're based at home.
Cool. So what made you choose Birmingham over other unis? I think for me, Birmingham, having the campus was really nice, having everything in one place. So coming to the open day and being able to walk between buildings, have that sort of community vibe, everything is in the same place and all your friends are near you too. And you really get to feel that once you start living here. Being able to go from a lecture to then go to the library and go to the cafe and not have to leave campus is really nice. And it is a really lovely campus to be on too. But also I consider the fact that module options, so being able to choose modules, like I said, being able to choose between human geography and physical geography, because I hadn't quite made my mind up yet, and then be able to refine my interests. So look at the module choices too, I'd say. Tess and Paddy, do you want to add to that?
I would just say that like the opportunity to do a year abroad was something that I really, really wanted to do. And there's so many places that Birmingham offers. So that was what mainly stuck out to me. And yeah, I mean, as Kamil said, the campus is really, really beautiful. The student area is right next to it. There's loads of facilities which have really helped, just study spaces and technical things and all the field trips. So yeah, just loads of opportunities to travel and to get to do things that you wouldn't usually do.
I haven't got much to add apart from the campus really drew me here. The first time I came to Birmingham, the campus itself was after I'd accepted my offer. And once I sort of came here, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty happy that I've made a decision. It's one I've not regretted anyway.
So Sophie asked, are there any local groups, projects or community groups you're involved in or recommend getting involved in to develop your knowledge about green sector? Paddy, do you want to mention BI4 and what the university does with BI4?
Sure. So BI4 is the Birmingham Institute of Forestry Research. It's up in Staffordshire, but they run groups quite often when there obviously wasn't a pandemic. We've got to take a lot of research trips up there and sort of speak to the staff and see the projects going on. As well as BI4, there's also the Conservation Society and I think Green Society at Birmingham. and they do a lot of projects with sort of the canal management and sort of different waste sites in the councils around Birmingham, which you can get involved with really easily, especially if you can dig as well.
Yeah, I think I'd back that again. So the Conservation Society is really good for just sort of getting out and about in the local green spaces and getting involved in community projects. I've had friends who've been involved in that. And through planning as well, you get involved in whatever's going on in the city too, so you get a real perspective on what the development context is. Tess, anything to add to that? Have you been involved in anything locally?
I mean, I'm doing the placement with Birmingham City Council, which is really great, and I think Birmingham University has a lot of links with them as well. And just through things like I was in the Energy Society, and we had links with Tyneside Energy Park, which is quite cool. So there's a lot going on in the local area, and it's worth mentioning that, like, Birmingham is a really, it's the second biggest city. It is up and it's not up and coming. It's already happening, but with HS2, it's always growing. There's always new things going on, and things to get involved with, which is another thing that I was going to say was really attractive about Birmingham.
Cool. I think that's it for all our questions and answers. So I'll move on to the final slide. Just say thank you to everyone who's came and got involved. Thank you to Paddy and Tess for speaking. If anyone's got any more questions, you can find the Planning Society on Facebook, and we'll share the presentation recording once that's up. Cool. Thank you, Phoebe, on the chat. So that's everything from us. Thank you both for joining, and everyone who's attended.